Welcome to Joy of the Hang. I'm your host, Sharon Stevenson. Today's episode is a powerful reminder of what resilience, courage, and connection look like in real life. My guest, Dr. Nini Ta, is a highly respected dentist at Siesta Village Dentistry, where she and her team approach every patient with compassion, gentleness, and a deep commitment to helping people feel healthy and confident in their smiles. But her journey to this work is extraordinary. At just 13 years old, Nini left Vietnam on a small boat, arriving in the United States with almost no English and absolutely no roadmap for what her future would hold. What she did have, rather, was grit, heart, and I'm having a hard time with my words here
It's
today.
okay.
Unwavering belief that she could build a better life, and she thought she had a hard time with English.
Still do. I still do. I'm still learning.
Oh my gosh. Decades later, she has more than 30 years of dental experience, advanced certifications in implant dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, and root canal therapy, everyone's favorite. I just had a root canal not that long ago. Not fun, and a thriving practice that mirrors her values. Dr. Ta also extends her gifts globally through her support of Operation Smile, helping bring life-changing surgeries to children around the world. Today, we'll talk about how she built a life, a career, and a community, one patient, one transformation, and one courageous step at a time. Let's dive in. Hi, Mimi. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Thank you
great.
for
How are
having me
you?
here. That speech was just like over the top there. Now I have to live up to it now.
Well, I do have questions which I've shared with you, but I do want to start with how you got here in the first place. So tell me how you and your family came here on a small boat from Vietnam.
It was one afternoon. It was sometimes in August 1981 or so. It was during the typhoon season, actually. And I was 13 years old. And there's this one man, he's kind of small and dark. And he like hurriedly go knocking on our door and he's asking for my brothers. And then when we invited him in and he said, it is time to go. And so my parents understood what that meant, but I didn't. So then they told me to go and find my brothers. And at the time they were out having coffees and hanging out with friends. So I got on my bike and I rode around to find my brothers because I knew kind of the spots that they would be hanging out. And so I found one of them, and I told him that, you got to go somewhere important. I think he understood it, just whatever it was that my parents told me to tell him. And I conveyed the message. And then he told me to go and find his other friend, which I did, and then to find my older brother. And my older brother was the one that arranged for the escape. I found that out later on, but I couldn't find him. I found out that he went to another town at the moment. So he was not in our city. So the decision was like, my parents had to make the decision to send me off with my brother. And if I were to go because I was a minor, my dad had to accompany me because originally it was just the two brothers and their friend. So we had to go to another town. And I think a lot of Americans probably would recognize the town Cam Ranh in Vietnam. The U.S. used to have their naval base there before 1975. So we caught the last bus. It's called a bus, but it's actually one of those small little transportation, car. And there was no rooms on any of those small buses. So my dad told me to pretend that I was sick, as a young girl, so then that I needed to go home to Cam Ranh. So I did, and they allow us to get on the bus, but there was no room, so we hanging on at the end of it with like chickens and ducks and all kinds of animals. You see one of those, third world country is true.
Okay.
That's what so we got there, and we have to. You wanted me to tell you the whole journey?
Yes.
Okay, so because so we got there and it was getting dark and we were told to wait by the beach in the bushes by the beach in Cam Ranh's beach until later on when it's a lot darker. And I waited and waited, and people went to bathroom there. This is a third world country. So we were laying low among all that. It was not pleasant.
No.
Okay, for like hours. And when it was close to midnight and somebody came and said, "It's time to go. It's time to go." And then we all ran out to the beach. There's like some small little rowing boats. I think these are the basket one. If you watch any Vietnamese show, you see that some of the fishermen, they have this basket, like weave basket that's really large,
Yeah.
and you get inside, and that would take you to the bigger boat. But the boats are not that big. It's wooden boat. It's for fishermen to
Fishing.
go fishing in, the in the vicinity of the Vietnamese coast waters.
Mm.
So we got taken out inside those baskets. And I remember I saw in the water there, it was lit up. I believe those luminescence, those critters,
Yeah.
and it was just lit up everywhere. It was so beautiful. And they said, "Oh my God, we cannot believe that it's like so bright tonight. Of all the night, that should not have
Uh,
been the bright night with the moon and the luminescent." Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
So then we said, so they said, "Hurry up!" And people were like panicking, pushing us out. We finally got on this little boat, this little wooden boat, and they started the engine. Then they covered us up with this tarp, and they said we have to make one stop to go and get food and water because they hid it in another island. So we ended up, pass by there. And then on the way there, they said, "Oh, there's Coast Guard. There's Coast Guard." And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm going to be in jail, right? As young as I was, I said, this does not sound good. So,
Not to interrupt you, but what were you escaping from? Why were you, what was the urgency to leave?
that's a very good question. We escaped South Vietnamese communists. And at the time, that was in 1981. In 1975, the communists took over South Vietnam. And my dad belonged to the South Vietnamese army that was siding with the US government. So people who are not communists or not part of the Communist Party, our properties got taken away. The children of these families do not get to go to college. There's no freedom of speech. There's no human rights, nothing like that for people like us. So literally, we were escaping the political issue at the time.
Okay.
And so,
Does that still
yeah,
exist in South Korea?
yes, not
South
like
Vietnam.
South
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things are much better now, um, in terms of the way of life over there, but still people like us are still being discriminated against. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're on the boat. The Coast Guard is coming. Now what?
Well, for some reason, they never really went for the fishermen for the boat that I was on
Okay.
because they covered us, all the people. There's 13 of us. So they have a tarp over us, and they made it look like as though these are just fishermen going out to sea, and they just making a stop. So it was we got very lucky. So they said, they left. They shined the light on us, and then they just left. They saw nothing was happening, so they took off, the Coast Guard. So then we went on our journey for about 7 days and nights
In that little boat.
in that little boat.
Wow.
One of those nights, I think it was the first 2 nights or some 2 or 3 nights. Don't quite remember because it's quite some times ago. There was a big storm. Have you ever watched the movie the Big Storm, where there's wave that's
Yeah.
vertical? Okay, so it's one of those nights when the waves were like that, and it was one of those typhoons
It's called
coming
the
through.
perfect storm, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah, the
perfect
perfect storm.
storm.
Yes, I forgot
Yeah.
the exact name.
Yeah.
But it's the waves were vertical, and our little boat made out of wood, mind you, going against it. They
Like 13
decide,
people.
yeah. So it broke a hole underneath, but before we, you know, get any more damage, they decided the people on there, including my dad and all these men. There's only two girls, one woman and a child, which is me, and the other one she's around 30 years old. The rest of them are just men. So they decide to steer back to Vietnam for like 85 kilometers or so. We have to go back towards Vietnam to escape the storm, right? You want to go with it, you don't want to go against it. And that night, one of us, one of the men, which is the same guy that came to our house to tell us the news to leave with him a couple of days ago, a couple of days before that, he was holding the torch, just right. And at the time, we wanted, because the wave was so bad, the wind was so bad, that we was doing the SOS signal. with the torches. And accidentally, the wind got the torch, and it landed on him. So he
Mm.
was burned, right? It was like a
My
human
God.
torch now. He dove into the ocean. It was without the torches, it was pitch black.
Wow.
We couldn't see anything. So they had to light up some more torches, and then we going back, like trying to find him. Luckily, you believe this? Luckily, like minutes later, I think maybe 15, 20 minutes later, we found him, and he like tried to swim to us, and we got to rescue him. But for the remainder of the trip, he was just laying there, and his skin was like bubbling up, how like heavily burned victim, right?
Mm.
And he was pretty much out of commission until like we got, on land and got rescued. I said that we got rescued by the Filipinos. We went towards the Philippines, but we already saw the land, right? We there.
Mhm.
Probably within a few hours, we would actually get to the beach, Filipinos beach. And the island is Mindoro, but there are fishermen, there's Filipinos fishermen before we get to the land. So they rescued us, right? So they took us on their ship. And as they took us on their ship, well, their ship, it's a lot bigger than ours, like at least 10 times bigger. So we watched our little boat was sinking because the entire 7 days we had to bail the water out so then we can stay afloat. So the minute that we stopped doing that, it was sinking. Yeah. And we
Wow.
looked at it and we said, my God, but a few more days and we would not have been able to survive because it's get weakened, right? And there's food is running out and all of that. Mind you, I think the whole 7 days, they brought potatoes that were dried up and water. That's it. And whatever we ate, we threw up. Like me specifically, I kept nothing. It was just, you starting seeing it's just yellow and green. It's like your spleen stuff coming out. Yeah, so it was just water that was just keeping us alive and
Wow.
whatever that we could absorb. But the motion sickness was just unbelievable, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So I was just, when I got on land on the boat, because I got on a bigger boat, so I didn't get affected because I was like already got used to the motion sickness. So these fishermen, Filipinos fishermen, they were so nice to us. They like feeding us like fresh seafood, right? But it's funny because the Filipinos, they don't eat with utensils, right? And I was going around looking for chopsticks. So I even said maybe fork or chopstick, but it's one of the few things that are the necessities of life. At that point, it became luxurious items. So we
Yeah.
got like
Huh.
food is like, you know what? I'm not complaining. I eat by hand, right? We eat just like the rest of them. And then there's water. And then the next day, they took us to Mindoro Island. And there we got taken in by a German priest. And he's in charge of a church, right? Catholic. And he has like how the Germans they have great medicine. They like great engineers, right? They're great in everything. So this man had like uh the place filled with like Western medicine. And the guy that was burned, our boatmate, he put this cream on him. And I think after maybe 10 days, he was good as new. I couldn't believe it. It
Wow.
was just like he was burned, bubbling up the skin. It's just like you probably don't have any skin left. But after that, it was just like he's fine. Yeah.
Wow.
So he was very thankful, and we were just amazed at the result. I
Mm.
have to tell you, German medicine is
Top
just
notch.
top notch. Yeah.
Top
Even
notch.
then, that was in the
Wow.
80s. Yeah. Yeah. So that's my little, escape. I'm sure there's a lot of details. Some of the things that I remember was that it was pitch black and it was just water all around. And we got splashed because of the typhoon. I got splashed with water. And I thought at some point we'd be sinking because I was ready to like go. It's like, what is that? Water was just splashing on both sides
Wow.
because the boat level like right with the water. And we just got splashed, like wet the whole night. And then during the day, the only thing that we could see was just no land, just water all around us. And the water was purple, then blue, then purple. That means it's very deep. And then we saw dolphins, and then we saw sharks circling us. We said, well, this
Uh,
is not fun. When we see dolphins, it said it's nice, but now there's sharks.
uh,
So, there's a lot of those little things that's happening along the way. Some of them are very scary. Some of them are hopeful. Sometimes we saw like ships, like you're talking about huge, huge ships, cargoes from different countries, right? We were at the time in international water. and all these ships where you looked up and the people was just like a little dot, and you know that they have binoculars looking down on us, right? And then some of our teammates said, boatmates said, let's do the SOS. And then we looked at it and we saw, oh my God, it's Russian name. No. We like
Ah,
tried to get away from them.
oh,
Like,
yeah.
so yeah. And then we SOS like a few other countries. They didn't pay attention to us. They don't want to take, because then we become liability, right? We're refugees. They know who we are. Because during in the 80s, the Vietnamese boat peoples were very famous, like during that time that we were escaping, like millions of us were escaping.
Oh,
So the one country though, there were two countries that I have to be thankful for. Of course, one is the US. They took us in because of my dad's previous relationship with the South Vietnamese army. But during that time it was also the Germany. Germany literally had multiple ships that were dedicated to go out into international water to rescue the Vietnamese boat people solely for that purpose. And I don't think too many countries knew about that except for us Vietnamese people who are the boat people,
yeah,
because they went out and they were picking up all kinds of Vietnamese people on the boats out there, right?
yeah.
Those that got left out there by engine, those got left out there by the pirates. The Thai pirates were the worst. When they caught us or when they catch our boats, they would rape the women, they kill the men, they take the engine, they take the food. Some of the men got left there, like just be floating on the ocean. And I remember that when I got into the refugee camps, we met like every week. There would be some ships coming in from the German ships that bring these people, and some of them they were very traumatized. They got really bad PTSD. And I remember this two people, a brother and a sister, the sole survivor of several hundred Vietnamese boat people on this one boat that they came. And there's only two of them left. And we found out later, and they don't act normal. We found out that they became cannibals. They had to like
Oh,
start eating
no.
each other because their ship got taken over by the Thai pirates. So these boat people went to Thailand route. We went to the Philippines route. It's much further away, but it's safer. And the Filipinos, they don't do things like that. But if you don't make it, it's because of typhoon. It's because of the long journey. Okay.
Yeah,
So our family decided to do that. We don't want to get caught by the Thai pirate. If you go towards Thailand, which is much shorter route, then almost you would get, taken by like women would get taken in by the Thai pirates or killed or be left for dead on the ocean.
mm,
And then these people become cannibals, right? They start eating each other
wow.
to survive. So these two people actually ended up doing that. They were fighting for survival and they were not right. You can tell emotionally they're not right. So they even like I even have talks with them. And so, there's a lot of traumas that happened. I just felt very lucky that my journey was long. It was rough, but we get to go where we intended to go and we in one piece. Emotionally, yeah, we kind of scar, but it's from the journey, right?
Right.
It's not from anything else. And we decided to do that. I mean, I didn't decide to do that. My parents did. But, I don't blame them. Would I do that again now? No, hell no. Who would want to do that again?
You would
I didn't
stay.
know. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, right? I
Right.
didn't know. I did not make the decision. But when I went with it, I went through it. I
But
didn't complain or anything
looking
because
back, you would have stayed.
but I know. See, the thing is that the Vietnamese that have never gone through it would do it again, right? Like my brother and sister, they tried to escape many times, but they got caught and put in jail many times. But they never made the journey. So now I already made the journey.
Right.
And now if I get put back in Vietnam and you ask me, are you
Gonna
going to
do
make
it
the
again.
journey? I said, no.
Okay.
Why? Why would
Understood.
I want to do that? Because there's 50-50 chance of death in
Right.
life. It's
Right.
literally, there's only 50% chance. Maybe it'll even lower than that.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
your brother and your sister are still there?
No, my older brother later on escaped the same way a few years later. My sister, she got married, um, when she was 25. So when I escaped, she was already married. Right? So her husband is also with the Navy, with the South Vietnamese Navy, siding with Americans. So later on, we were able to sponsor them because of that connection.
Okay.
Okay, because he's a veteran. So my sister get to come with him, and my other brother escaped,
Oh,
the one that I couldn't find.
the older one.
One. So he's good at finding connection like that. Right now they in California.
Okay. What about your
The
mom? Did she
My
ever make it?
mom, we sponsor her. I think 10 years after I was already in the States. I already went to college, like 10 years apart from her. I was 13 when she saw me. I became a woman. In my like I was like 19, 20.
Right.
Yeah.
Because this is before FaceTime and before,
Yeah,
right?
the
I mean, there was
mail
no
took forever.
right,
Yeah, like a month for
right.
them to get the mail.
Yeah, you couldn't communicate the way we can now.
Right, yeah.
There's
It
no way
was
for
it
you to
took a long time for mails. I remember that.
yeah.
Even, when I write letters to my mom, it took a month. And then to write letter to my friends over there, it took a month. I remember that
Yeah,
because we were writing back and forth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is, yeah, this is the 1980s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a you went through a lot. I feel like I just watched a movie. You need to write a book about your journey.
I left a lot of things out. It's just
Yeah.
that I just want to tell you some, and I think I took up a lot of time already because that's, just
No,
the
I
main
think
point.
so, I mean, obviously, let's fast forward to today. You must have a lot of compassion for immigrants today and what's happening in our country
Oh,
today
definitely.
and how we're wanting to close our borders a little bit or tighten things up. So,
Are we going to talk about politics? That gets
no,
very
we're
sensitive.
not gonna talk about politics, but I mean, your journey's making me think that, you know, a lot of the Mexicans and Cubans and whatnot that are trying to get into our country and escape similar situations probably. Look, it's not I mean, in Mexico, it's certainly not a communist country, but still difficult situations, right? So, yeah, you must have a lot of compassion for
I do.
what
See,
they're
I
going
find
through.
I find myself that when I hire staff and they have trouble with English, I don't mind so much. Like I would take them in as long as they can prove to me that they can do the work and their English has to get improved over time.
Yeah,
Then they have the job. And I know that some of them have a rough time getting jobs because of the language barrier.
right.
But that does not mean that their skills are not there. But sometimes because of the language barrier, it affects the skills, you see? But I have more patience for those people because of that. Because when I first came, I remember, I mean, I knew the grammar. I took English as my second language, but how much do you really learn from a Vietnamese teacher in Vietnam, right? I couldn't speak well when I came here.
Mm,
And my friends that in high school, they were speaking really fast. So I could get only a few words. But if you give me a book, okay, if you give me a pop quiz, I would definitely fail. But if you give me a test, I will ace it. So it takes time. When I was walking around with a dictionary like Vietnamese, English, English, Vietnamese, it's those small little ones,
yeah,
and I would constantly translating. And there were some funny stories. Like I knew that I couldn't speak English very well. I couldn't understand very well, and it took literally 4 years before I could have a normal conversation. But I'm still learning right now. Like before I ask you about, that little word, like what do you mean? I
yeah,
can decipher it, but
yeah,
I want to be sure. And every day there's little idioms here and there from the South. My husband's telling me, I said, what? And then, I learn every day. Yeah,
right,
because it's
right.
not my first language. But, I was in Vietnam only up until the age 13. So is Vietnamese really is my first language? That is very debatable now, right? Because I no longer think in Vietnamese. When I'm thinking, I think in English.
Yeah.
But when I'm counting math, money, or anything, especially money, is in Vietnamese. Because I
That's
learned the
funny.
table, the multiplication table and math,
Yeah.
the basic in Vietnam. So for me to not make mistakes in money, it gotta be counted in
It's
Vietnamese. Yeah. But
interesting.
everything else is in English. At the beginning, it took me probably maybe 8 years for me to still think in Vietnamese. And if I want to write an essay, I have to translate it, what I want to say, right, into English.
Yeah.
Now I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you get to the United States? How old were you when you got here, and where were you in the US?
So we left the refugee camp when I was about 15. We got the okay to come to the US, but which city and which state, it was being determined by who we know because the US wanted us to be assimilated well into the country.
Mhm.
So they wanted us, even if we have some friends or whatever, then we have to put in the paper and then we have to go to that city. And man, I don't know what's going on there, but my parents, like they know, you remember that one friend of my brother that I for him to come along. Of all the places, his mom had to pick Rochester, New York.
Little
Coming
chilly.
from, yeah,
Yeah.
coming from Vietnam,
Yeah.
you know, where it's just like nice and warm. I was living in a beach town called Nha Trang, and it's very similar to Sarasota.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like wintertime is a little cool. It's like this because we're right at the beach, right?
Right.
So it's very similar. Summertime is hot, but it's not unbearable.
Right.
And this time of the year is super nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to the beach every day. It's walking distance. So when I came to Rochester and when the snow hit and then it's this lake effect snow, you know, it's like up to my waist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is hell. It's like, is this US? It's like, it doesn't seem like it. It's like I went to like the Arctic hell or something, right? But I'm talking about like just that part. The weather part is like hell.
Yeah.
But the living, the way of life and everything else is much better. Like you can have so much freedoms of speech that it shocked me. Like I got a culture shock because I
Wow.
went to high school, right? And then there's lockers, right? On either side.
Yeah.
And all these kids are like standing there kissing. And in Vietnam, you don't have anything like that.
Oh,
You can't,
no?
you don't even hold hands or anything like that, right? No, because that's
Okay.
disrespectful
Okay.
to the teachers, to each other, and
Okay.
you don't do that.
So no
That-
public display of
No,
affection
not no,
when you're
no,
in
no,
school.
no.
Okay.
Like not inside the school,
Yeah.
and they don't really do it outside either.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that the population of Vietnam is not high, you know, overpopulated. They do things behind doors. You know what I mean? It's
Right,
not that
right.
they any better. It's
Right.
a cultural difference.
Yeah.
It's like they don't do that in school. And then the freedom of speech is just like totally shocked me. They talk back to their teachers. And I'm like, what? Like when you walk into the class, like in Vietnam, we would just say, you know, good morning, teacher, without arms folded, and we nodded our head. You know how the Japanese like doing a lot of bowing, we would bow a lot also, and we would say good morning, teacher, and we sit down, you know, like very respectfully. Here they just like the when the bell rings, they steal the door, they shoving each other in. They don't even say hi to the teacher. The teacher's having a hard time keeping them quiet. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Did I just went to hell again in school? I'm like, what's going on? But the freedom of speech and the freedom of everything, to me, it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not talking about good or bad. It's just very culturally shocked, right?
Right. Right. The lack of structure, even. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a comment on any of that. I'm just telling you the differences
right.
in the cultural aspect of it
Yeah.
for someone who just came to America, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I felt. And the English, okay, so, you know, kids can be cruel, right? When I went to a reading class or English class, and then when you have to read a phrase, and man, every time it was my turn, I'm like, man, this is bad. I could hear them giggle all around me because I know I did not sound good. It
Yeah.
was just like someone who just came and their English is really rough. Just imagine you if you don't speak another language and you're trying to speak Chinese or Vietnamese, for instance, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, and somebody's giggling, right?
Right.
Because
It would not be
but
pretty. Yeah.
but the thing is that kids are kids, they don't know.
Right.
And we do sound funny,
Yeah.
you know, when you start talking, because years later, right? It's like karma. I was being laughed at, right? But I didn't like get mad or anything because I knew I had to do better. So then as a child, you said, okay, I'm going to do better so that they won't laugh.
Right.
That's all. I don't think that, oh, that's bad or anything. I just think
Yeah.
that I got to prove myself, right? So 4 years later, right? My name was being called literally almost every day for all kinds of awards, straight A's, you know, like constantly every day
Yeah.
and every month and every like year, right? Like
Yeah.
I was in the highest honor roll. So I said, who's laughing now? Like, you know what I mean? Here,
Love
there's
it.
people are struggling getting like just to see or whatever. I said,
Yeah.
you know, like
I
you
got
need to get laughed at sometime. You know?
to do better. Yeah.
So then, fasting forward, like when my sister-in-law came with my brother, this is a few years later, and then when it's her turn to learn English, right? And I catch her speaking English on the phone, and I caught myself giggling. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing the same because she sounded so bad, right?
Yeah.
And here, like 6, 7 years later, I'm ready. And I'm like, damn, that's how I sounded. And shame on me, right?
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
cover my blanket over, but I'm still giggling. And she gave me such dirty looks after that. So then I had to like do something nice. Like, you know, when she's doing her essay or something, I say, you need help? You can ask me. Guess what? They all took like that offer And everybody in my family wanted me to help them with their
Oh,
essays. Yeah, I
yeah.
said, at some point you got to write your own. Yeah,
Your English
so
is great now.
I
It's
mean,
great.
it's better, definitely much better
Right.
than
30 years now, right?
it's about 40. But I came when I was 15, so I retained some of the accent still. Had I come like around 9 or 10, I would have sounded just like the American born.
Yeah.
But at that teenage years is a little bit different because I've already mastered a lot of the Vietnamese language. Like in Vietnam, I was on top of my class. I was always having that drive, and I was doing the newspaper for the school. I was giving speeches in school, and I read a lot of Vietnamese. So I retain a lot of that. And so it's very hard to break away. And even now, I'm still writing poems in Vietnamese
Yeah.
and also in English, but I still keep up with my Vietnamese. So that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it was your parents' decision for you to leave Vietnam, but did you want to come to the United States then, or were you happy in Vietnam? Sounds like you had a pretty
Because they
success.
they kept me shelter when I was in that was middle school, because in 8th grade, I knew that I went through a few things, and I knew that it was not fair because there was some year when I was the first of the class, but I didn't get the rewards. I didn't understand quite, the political aspect of it.
Yeah.
But then later on I understood that it's because of my family background.
Oh,
I was not being awarded,
yeah.
even though I had the highest grade. You know what I mean?
It
Things like
wasn't
that.
because you're a woman. It was just
No,
because of your political
political.
beliefs.
It's all because of the
Political.
political belief.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like living in a refugee camp?
Oh, it was fun. We had no money.
It
We got
was
no
fun.
food, not enough.
That was not
We
the
had
word I
like
was
no clothes, but we had so much fun because okay, so they have the gate, right? They keep us inside, right? But
Yeah,
it's all Vietnamese and we there for freedom, right?
yeah,
So the Philippines, there's a lot of freedom. Just don't go outside of the fence and there'll be guards with guns there, right? Because
right.
you're not their citizens, right?
Yeah,
And they have to keep you contained. But inside there, we were having fun. We were playing prank jokes on each other. We don't have enough food, like they give us portions, but like other countries sending money in and they would buy food and they would distribute food and then water. We had to go to the well and carry our water back. But you know what? That's all we do, right? Just getting our food and playing games, going to learn English and learn something that you like because they have all kind of lessons there.
okay.
And the Filipino people were just amazing people. They're very hospitable and very nice. They have so we get a portion, like certain portion of rice per family, right? But we don't eat a lot of rice, right? Because we wanted to trade that with the Filipino people for some cash, right? Why do we need cash? Heck, everybody needs cash sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to go outside, like I think we allowed to go outside of our refugee camp for like a few hours a day, and there's like restaurants or cafes lining up, in front of it because they know that the Vietnamese people would want to go out and party, right? So they have bars and stuff. And I was young, but I said, I want to go and drink a Coke. So there's no Coke inside, right? They don't portion out Coke, just chicken and rice or some kind of
Yeah,
meat and rice and
and
vegetables.
water. Yeah,
Yeah, water, you got to get it from the well. So
yeah,
that's free.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We would eat and then we save like these little those condensed milk cans. So we weigh that by the can, right? Like how many cans is how much pesos you're gonna get. So then I'm saving, right? Because I was a girl, so obviously I have to cook. That's a traditional thing that I didn't like so much. Like I have to cook. I have to do all this domestic thing because I was the only girl. So I kind of resented that. But anyways, I
Yeah,
make up for it by saving the rice and then go and trade it for peso.
yeah.
And then
Get
I
your
tell my
Coke.
girlfriend, I said, let's go. Right. So we got our permit. You have to get the permit from the guards. And we went outside and they gave us the time to come back. I said, if you don't come back on time, you're going to stay outside. I said, well, don't worry. We come back on time. So we went out and then we went and we sat, in one of the bars. And what did we order? 2 Cokes, the original in the
In
glass
the
bottle.
glass
And
bottle.
we just
Uh-huh.
like stretched that drink out for like several hours. And, we had a lot of fun doing that. And then another embarrassing story I gotta tell you about a refugee camp is that bathroom was disgusting. It's an outhouse, right? But
Yeah,
it's built above the ground, right?
okay.
And it's large. It's probably almost as large as the length of your house here, right?
Yeah,
And then there's like holes on the top with doors, right?
yeah,
But it's above ground. So when you go in there, you feel the heat, like it's
yeah,
heat, right?
yeah.
Whenever it stinks. so bad, right?
Oh,
But our refugee camp is right by the ocean. And I'm like, I'm very clean when it comes to things like this. So I was dreading every time I have to go to the bathroom. I said, oh my God, do I have to do this? So then I would go in like plastic bags and then I go up there and I throw it. But then I said, this is like uncomfortable to do that in plastic bag and then to do that, right?
yeah.
And so you want me to still talk about this?
Sure.
So then,
I'm
I'm always
yeah.
like the devilish child, right? Like I listen to my parent, I do a lot, like everything they said, but like that other side of me is like kind of unpredictable, right? So the rule is that if you go to the bathroom on the beach, okay, you're going to have to do community service and your name will be called every single day for 30 days. Okay. So that's a rule because why? People go on the beach, when the tide is low.
Yeah.
So when the tide is up, then it's washed away. But they don't want us to do that. I understand why, but I was thinking there's like all kind of big fishes out there. They're doing it. Why can't we? And this is disgusting what you are having us do, right?
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy. It's just like there's like, whales and stuff. They make like
Right.
big pile of stuff. And
Ex
we swimming in it, right?
Yeah,
And this is
yeah.
like just little thing I'm doing. I'm just little,
Right.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then I said to my girlfriend, I bought a flashlight. I have some money. I bought a flashlight with the rice that I traded. Let's go. She said, where? We go to the beach tonight. She said, no, you're not. I said, you bet ya. I got to go there and get some fresh air for my, butt, right? I was just like, I'm tired of like this. I want to enjoy the
Funny
moon and
story.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I went out there and my girlfriend came with me. And as soon as we like pull our pants out and sat down, I was very quick. I said, Tao, 30 seconds, man. That's all you got. Okay.
Yeah.
Enjoy the wind, the breeze, 30 seconds, and we got to go. Dude, I was done, right? And this girl was still there. And then the
Oh,
guard came,
no.
flashing light. I bolted, I left. I
Oh,
said,
no.
every woman is for herself. And I told you already, I'm going. Bye. So I like bolted. I ran. I don't know what happened to her, right? I said, like, how could you not pull your pants up and go? She said, I was in the middle of things. Guess what happened?
Oh my
For
god.
the next 30 days, her name was called for community
Oh.
service. And everybody knew what it is. Every time her name was called, the whole neighborhood started laughing, right? Like who know her. We were all laughing so hard. You can hear the laughter, right? For 30 days. And she said, I cannot believe and I said,
Was she blaming you for dragging her to the beach?
yeah, she did. But I said, girl, it was your pants. It was you. Like you didn't have to do this.
That's right. You got to be quick about it.
And then after that, I said, "You want to do it again?" She said, "Oh no." But
Oh
that's
my
that's some
gosh.
of the
Partner
simple
in
fun
crime.
things. That's
Yeah.
that's some of the cute things that we do. Like there's no money, there's nothing, but we felt the freedom that and plus we got our life to be thankful for,
Well,
right?
right after that journey.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
nothing
gosh.
else can really like make me afraid anymore. I was not afraid of going on the beach after that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. How many people were in the refugee camp, would you say?
I think it's hundreds of thousands because there were
Hundreds
multiple.
of thousands?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Because we each arrive at different island because when you escape, you don't just escape. Okay, that's the final island. Philippines is an archipelago, right? It's
Yeah.
made of many islands. So when you go to the Philippines, they can end up here, 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 right? So people are scattered all throughout this island, and then they have this big ship they came by each island because the local officers would call in and tell them we have some Vietnamese refugees. So then they was like I was in Mindoro for like 2 months, so they would come, excuse me, and would just pick up people from different islands, and then they ship us to Palawan, like where they held a lot of refugees, but it's not like the biggest hub. And then if you get accepted to go to different countries, like after the interview process, like it's a whole grueling interview process. It is not easy to legally getting into a country. You have to have reason. You have to prove it. Why? And we all went for political asylum. It was truly political asylum. It's not economic because we were well to do then. You know what I mean? It's totally, for us, it's with political asylum. So you have to go through a lot of interviews. And by the time that each one of us, each family got admitted to, like a lot of people got admitted to Germany. Like if you want to go to Germany at the time, Germany was taking everyone in as long as you want to go. Okay. like not only they pick up people from international waters who are Vietnamese boat people, but if you there and you want to go in the refugee camp and you say you want to go, they take you
Mm.
because they were so compassionate towards, the Vietnamese boat people. And I'm very thankful, for
Yeah.
them to do that. And then there's Canada that's taking people in. There's Japan. There's a few, like if Japan boat pick up people, then those people get to go to Japan, for instance. Okay, you have to have reason. And then there's that legal documentations. And then once you're ready to go to that country that you got admitted to go, then they ship you to Bataan, another island. That is where it's huge. I think it's hundreds of thousands of refugees there. And it's not just Vietnamese, it's other Asians as well. So we met the Cambodians, we met the Laotians, for whatever the reason, they left the countries. So there's a lot of other ethnic groups there. So
Mm.
we made a lot of friends along the way, and there's a lot of, classes we take just to prepare us to come to a, destined country. So I was learning English and, things like that.
It's fascinating. So, when you were in these camps, I'm just trying to imagine everything that you were going through. Um, first of all, do they still exist?
No,
They're gone. They're closed.
about 20 something years ago, they closed because the need to save the boat people they decided it's no longer a need because
Okay.
these other countries that are doing better, economically, and I don't know about politically, maybe politically, but economically and politically, they more lenient towards the people that's not from the communist, party. And also after a certain time, all that funding towards the Vietnamese boat people has ended. So I believe it was at least 30 years ago because I'm saying that I'm estimating it's because I believe maybe about 10 to 15 years ago, I went back to Palawan, where it's one of the big camps, the camps that I went out to get Cokes.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about Pepsi, okay,
Yeah.
not cocaine, okay. It's
Right.
like Coke,
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Coke is it,
Coca-Cola.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
that, but their bottle is
Yeah.
small though, not those big one, like small, the classic one. And it tastes so good. It tasted so good then. I don't drink it anymore because it's available everywhere. But then it was
Yeah.
just like
A
gold.
treat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a treat. But I went back to that refugee camp and it was closed down, right? They later on, after I think there were people that were escaping in the 90s that would have been too late. They closed the camp. So there's 2,000 Vietnamese refugees that came after the time that I guess NATO or, all these countries deemed that it's necessary to take in these people. So these 2,000 people remain in the Philippines like countryless. They
Yeah.
don't belong to any country
Uh-huh.
and they just there working and living, but they don't have paperwork. They're not Filipino citizen. So if they get sick or get into a car accident or anything like that, nobody's taking care of them. They don't have the right as a citizen in that country, nor can they be admitted to any other country. So I heard about this. So I went there to do one of my volunteer work that I did it on my own. So Operation Smile is just one of the many organizations that I've done because I've done a lot on my own and with other friends. And this is one of those times when I went. And so I met these people in the camp and I met a lawyer, a Vietnamese lawyer from Australia that was helping these people to get admitted to Canada and then the US and some other countries. And I just went there as a dentist, actually, just to help with dental care. So I I met these people and I went and I talked to some Filipinos dentists to use their office and I funded some of the money so then they can also help taking care of my people. And we had a great time for like a week. I hung out. We went to the same beach that I did my deed.
Did the deed?
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
the deed. Yeah. So this time I didn't do
Yeah.
anything like that. I was
Okay.
staying in the hotel. You know what I mean? And,
Fantastic.
yeah, but we went out there and playing music and singing and dancing under the moon. And
Nice.
these people, they're living life there, but it's just they want to go somewhere where it's more permanent,
Right.
where their children can go to school, go to college. So finally, after I left, I think within 5 years, the paperwork and everybody's helping with this lawyer's help, they get to go to Canada. The majority of them get to go to the US.
Good.
Yeah. So we still keep in touch up until this day.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
great. That's great. You do so many great things. So tell me, first of all, how did you get interested in dentistry?
Yeah, that's a story on its own. So right now I'm missing one tooth.
Okay.
There's a story to that. In Vietnam, dental care was kind of like a luxury in Vietnam. At the time I was growing up and my generation and the generation before me. So my mom will only send me to see the dentist if I'm in pain. And I was in pain every Lunar New Year's Eve. I don't know why. I guess it's a whole year of not brushing and eating candies. And my mom, she would, like, tell me, "Go brush your teeth." And I said, "Yeah, I did it." But then, kids, right? And then
Yeah.
I didn't, right?
Right.
And I would eat stuff and I don't brush. And then she would trick me. She said, "Go brush your teeth." And then I said, "I did." She said, "Your toothbrush still has toothpaste on it." I said, "Damn, why'd you do that? I thought I'm devious. You even more devious." So I said, okay, I'm gonna go and brush my teeth. But every time I check the toothbrush and sometimes I'm bad, I just wash the damn thing off, right? And I won't do it. So then I would end up with this abscess, like the New Year's Eve. It's just like, what the hell? I'm in pain, right? But luckily, most of them are baby teeth. And one time that was an adult tooth, but I didn't know. Up until like when I came to the US, when I went to dental school, that's when I knew that it was an adult tooth that was abscessed and got taken out. So she took me the next day to see this one dentist, like maybe a kilometers away. We walked there. So as she was doing paperwork, I walked in to check the premise. I was curious. I said, let me see how clean or dirty this is. Like, I don't think it's that clean. Like I don't know. I was like maybe 11 or 12 or something.
Yeah.
And then I went and the old chair, they have this stupid cuspider and people spit in it.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore, right? At that time they had it. And still some offices still have it. I bet you. Because at the beginning of my career, I did buy into an office that had it and then I got rid of it. So they don't clean it. This guy took out teeth, they're so bloody, and he left it in
Ugh.
there. And he was gonna have me in there. I said, hell no. I bolted. I ran home,
Oh,
right?
no.
My mom is calling me, nay, nay, right? She ran after me. She was going to catch me because I ran really fast. I went home. I locked the door.
Oh,
I said, you
no.
can't get in.
Jeez.
I said, I'm going to take out the tooth myself. You watch. And I did. I don't know how I did. I think the string or something, but I couldn't take it out the whole thing. There's still remnants, right?
Yeah.
And I just gargled with salt and water, and that was it. So when I came to US here, I still have remnants of baby teeth, like roots and stuff, and
Yeah.
remnants of it. And I remember this was in high school. I said, "Man, this is itching. It just can't be good." So I started taking it out myself with tweezers, right? I know.
Listening to
All right,
Feeling
right. Because this
nauseous.
is why I'm a dentist, right? So no, because one time when I first came here, we got to go to see the dentist. So I said, "Oh, let me go," right? It's
Yeah.
like, let me see how American dentists are like. Let me check them out. So I went in because I didn't speak English, right? So I didn't understand what the heck they were talking about. All I know is that they're going to do cleaning or whatever. And I just opened my mouth and she went to town with someone who's never had a cleaning before. It's not really her fault,
Yeah.
but I was a child.
Yeah.
There's a way to do this, right?
Right.
But there's people who, like, I probably didn't go to a children pedodontist, for instance, and I was at a transitional age between a child and adult.
Right.
I have adult teeth now. So yes, I should be seen by, a general dentist. So the hygienist went to town and I was bleeding. I was just in so much pain that I was like almost peeing my pants. I'm saying, what the hell is this? It's like American dentists are no better. I'm like, what's going on, right? And then they wanted to do fillings on me. And I looked at it, I said, bye. That's all I could say. I left, right? And then I said, years later, when I went to college, right? I didn't know how to floss right. I was just like, and I eat late, studying for exam. My gum was bleedy or whatever. I said, there's got to be a way better than this. And I think all of that led to me wanting to become a dentist, just to conquer this and also to do something about it, to just help people overcome the fear.
Yeah.
And then hopefully go back one day and treat some of these children, and go around and just help educate. So I'm very much into educating patients on good oral hygiene. A lot of time my patients said, here we go again with this lecture. I said, no, 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 it's feedback. It's feedback.
Right.
It's not a lecture. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I myself have to be my own dentist at a young age.
Wow.
I went through some grueling experiences, but it didn't scare me. It just made me want to conquer it, the fear, right?
Right.
So when I went to dental school and after like a couple of semesters of learning dentistry, and so I said, okay, I think it's my fault. When I go for cleaning, I'm not going to blame anybody because it's my fault. So I go to the hygienist in my school and I said, please clean this mouth. And she said, do you need like anesthetic or anything? I said, nope, go to town with it because I want to remember this so I would never do it again. So she went to town. I said, "Man, I deserve this. I deserve this so badly." And then she said, and then my professor examined me and said, you have a couple of cavities, Dr. Ta, like two, right? And I said, that's not too bad for all this year. Like, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have any, but you lost one permanent tooth. I said, damn, yeah, I know when also. So I said, okay, can you do the filling for me? Because I'm not going to trust my friends to do it. We're still learning, right?
Right.
I'm not going to trust them. Like,
Right.
so he said, yes. And then I called my friend Rob and then another one. I said, hold my hands. Okay. And then the doctor, I remember, see, Dr. Pardo, he's so nice. He's not with, he passed away already,
Oh.
but he did the two filling for me and they're still in my mouth to this day. And I think I was holding on to my friend's hands to the point where they were hurting. Right. But yeah. So, and then I couldn't get another cleaning because of insurance and I was still a student and, I was on scholarship. So, it's like, I didn't have much money. Right. So I couldn't get another cleaning until I think in my residency. So at the time I was a resident, I was for UCSF in San Francisco, and I was rotating to the Bay Area. And at one point I rotated to Oakland Hospital, and there's some hygienist. And I remember me was having pain in my jaw. And I know what it was because I diagnosed myself. It was from the lack of having a cleaning, and I have a wisdom tooth. And so the plaque built up around it under the flap of the gum. So I said, man, this is bad. So I go to her and I said, I'm going to numb myself or you numb me there and please just go to town with it and clean it. Right. So we did this in between patients because I have to see patients. Right? And me
Yeah.
like in pain, having an abscess from the gum,
Yeah.
numbing and cleaning. And I'm walking around treating patients as I'm going through this. I said, okay, never again. I'm going to neglect. So from that point on, getting my cleaning regularly. Yeah. So the other day, my classmate, one of them was Rob, the one that was holding my hand, was getting my first filling in America.
Yeah.
He cleaned my teeth after I cleaned his, and he said, there's no bleeding. Your teeth and your gums are cleaner than my eyeballs. Well, I went through a lot to get to this point.
Good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say to the listener who is afraid to go to the dentist? Like, what do you do to calm people's nerves?
I have a few of those, actually,
Yeah.
quite a few. And I will not do anything that people don't want me to do. So the first thing that people go in is that because of the fear, they start projecting that fear. Sometimes they lashing out at like staff and dentists. They don't mean to though.
Right.
It's like I have this one guy, he comes in, he just, where's Dr. Ta? I want to get this over with. And it's just like, you have to get your blood pressure and everything done. Well, I just want to get this over with. So I walk into the room and he said, when is it going to be over, doc? Like, how long is it going to take? I said, I haven't started. Give me a second. And I just went into the mouth, just like opened up the mouth. He said, are you going to be done soon? And I said, just calm down. Did you take a Xanax? He said, damn it, I forgot to take a Xanax. And I said, but he's doing this a lot, right? So I told him, next time when you take a Xanax, can you bring me one and my staff? He started laughing, and I said, you've been stressing me out, dude. Like, calm down. Like, I will not hurt you.
Yeah.
We're going to do this quick, right? He said, okay. I'm like, calm. But I have nitrous oxide laughing gas. And patients love that because they feel like they're in cloud nine.
Yeah.
And the minute it's done, it's out of your system. And it's just the way I approach it. We have like soft music. The music is important because when you play rock or something like upbeat, your heart's going to go with it, right? You want to dance, you want to be up and going. It's got to be something very sleepy. And we have like massaging chairs. And it's just our demeanor, like whatever it is, it's in very low, soft voice. And my office, I don't like any noises because anything dropped, that would scare the heck out of the patient.
Right.
My presence alone is already scary, right? But I always tell people, if you have dental phobia, something must have happened. Okay. And I tell them some of my stories, right? And what I do is that throughout the treatment, I tell stories and that keep people focused on some of the funny stories I'm telling. And that really helps.
Yeah.
Even my own landlord, she comes and she demands that I tell stories. And then I have this one lawyer. He would talk, and he said, okay. I said, we got to start sometime. There's a couple of them, right? But I know that's a dental phobia. And he said, look at Dr. Ta. Well, before you start, I just want to let you know that you have to tell me your story, whatever it is, your trip, whatever. I said, I did not know that this comes with the prize, but okay, whatever. So this is what I do. I talk people through it, but I don't really tell them what I'm doing unless you want me to.
Yeah.
But it'd be about stories to calm you down, and funny stories. So then you laugh in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're nervous, take a Xanax was what I got from that.
Yes. No, I had this one patient yesterday, swear, like she came, right? And the front desk said, I can't deal with this.
No.
She's like, when the front desk explained things to her, she would be like, you're overwhelming me. I can't listen to this. You gotta know the price. You gotta sign with consent. I don't want to deal with it. It's just like, and I said, well, she was like this for 5 years. Why are you guys it's just the way people coping with it. Just leave her alone. And then when she goes in there and the assistant coming out, said, I can't deal with this, doc. I said, it's just a 5 minutes of flossing. And then when I walked in, she's like, is that you, Dr. Ta? I said, oh, hi. And she said, this is what I'm afraid of. This is a fear. And she said, are we going to be done soon? I said, I haven't even sat down, right? And then she said, I took a part of a Xanax. And I said, maybe it's not enough. Maybe. And then she went on, said, I don't want pain, this and that. I said, you've been coming here and I never really give you pain. And I know you have to give me this speech. I understand this and that. And then I start making her laugh. I said, so how much of the Xanax do you take? I said, just a pinch. Do you have the rest? Because I need it. She started laughing, right? And I said, next time, bring some for us. Basically, I just want to relate and make them laugh. And the minute they start laughing, things calm down, right?
Have you ever had to fire a patient? Have you ever been like, this is not a good fit?
It would never be because of dental phobia. It would be because of the patient lacks respect for the office.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So if they're treating your staff poorly, then you would
just
say this is
this is just or
Yeah.
just like the expectation that we can't meet, a certain thing, just some rudeness or whatever. Yeah. But then when I say something like that, people apologize because they want to stay on and they realize. But usually so I see in Sarasota and Siasaki, there's people like 40 and up. And there's the up one, it can be 60, 70, 80, 90s, right?
Right.
The older you get, guess what? The crankier we get.
Right.
Why? Health problems,
Right.
right? The loneliness. I have patients who come to me just to talk, just stop by to talk because they live in themselves or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And we welcome that, right? Or they come in and I think the talking alone is like half an hour and then the treatment is just but it gets people feeling comfortable. So it's a kind of the office where you're not a number in our office. We don't go in and just say, okay, we have 30 minutes for this and then we got to do and there's no time. There's actually a lot more talking and then the treatment, okay? And during that, there's still time to make people comfortable and then the afterwards. So I'll book my appointment very long period of time for just something simple, because I expect that people want that rapport, and that's the kind of office that, that we have. And I want to have that type of office because at earlier years of my career, it wasn't so much like that because I was working for other groups in Rochester and in New York, whatever. And the bottom line was important because they have staff, they have dentists to pay, they have this and that. So they piled up like 30 something patients. And it's like there's only 8 hours, two
Right.
hands. They give me two assistants. I go room to room to room. There isn't much time to build rapport or talk.
Right.
You just get right to work. And another thing is that if people already had previous trauma as a child from dental experiences, and I noticed that a lot, people had in the past they got some bad experience. I've heard some crazy experiences people went through.
Mm.
So because of that, they neglected their teeth and their gum because if they have pain or whatever, they don't want to touch it because people don't know that if you're having something, you actually have to touch it, have to do something about it.
Yeah.
But if you're avoiding it, you're not going to see someone. And by the time you see someone, it's already like too late. Now you have to take the tooth out. Now you have abscess. So now you relate that pain to seeing me or the dentist now, right?
Right.
But we actually didn't cause that. You see,
Right.
indirectly, someone in our profession have made you feel that way,
Right.
right? And then you're starting to do that. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just how it was handled,
Right.
right? And it's not being addressed, okay? And it's not being conquered because it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. The mouth's very sensitive. I told you some of the stuff I went through. It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think too many people went through what I went through in Vietnam with my mouth,
Right.
right? But it takes a certain person to want to overcome that.
Right.
Not everybody has that because if I went through the escape like unscathed in the way that I'm alive now, I'm working, nothing else would matter. That trumps everything. So therefore, none of that really affects me, like the dental and during childhood. It's the escape though had left a scar. For instance, see that water out there, as pretty as it is? If I cannot see the bottom of it, you bet you I won't get down. That is some of the fear. And I don't want to conquer it. Why?
Right.
Like I can just swim in the shallow. I still go swimming though in the Gulf, open water swim. Okay. But when it's calm and it's clear, then I swim, but very full alert. I'm watching for sharks or anything. I would swim for like an hour and a half by myself in open water because I'm used to doing that.
Yeah.
But there's certain fear that I'm not going to go out there when it's like past my head in water, right? I won't
Yeah.
do that. So I know that dentophobia is difficult and the way I'm treating patients, I was able to get like all the patients that came to me with the fear, they able to conquer it or they able to go to the procedures, okay?
Yeah.
And not feeling scared at the end. And they come back. Like when they come back to me before that, they probably feel scared. But when they in the chair, they go through it, they not. But so it takes time. There's time when there's just one guy during the pandemic, he neglected his lower farm teeth to the point where it's down to the nubs. And his parents, like later on, I heard, his parent came in to thank me, but he's in his 50s, right? And I was like deadly afraid of the dentist. And I didn't know why. Later on, he told me some of the stories. And then we just baby step with him. We
Yeah.
make him comfortable. We prop his mouth open. We make sure he's numb. We ask questions. We let him like relax or stop the procedure if he's not comfortable. 2 years later, after I rehabilitated, was the smile. His mom with a cane would come in and thank me. She's like close to 90, and the dad also. This woman with a cane walking to thank me is taking care of her 50-something-year-old son. And now when he comes in, he no longer needs nitrous oxide. He's sitting there. He just like, if I numb him, he said, okay, go. Like whatever it is I'm doing, just do. He said, you're not. He said, no, I'm over it.
Good. That's great.
So yes,
Yeah.
and then there's
Good.
people who still
Yeah.
afraid, but once they go through it, they're fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Realize it was nothing to be afraid
Right.
of.
So because of my track record in dentistry with my own life and the fact that whatever I'm going through, somehow I have that ways with patients who are afraid of dentistry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to actually have some experiences in it.
Yeah.
Like the way I went through my life.
Right.
I think,
Yeah.
coupled with our training. Of course, the training is very important because in dental school, I'm not going to take that away. They taught us to be patient and there's certain technique. We were taught to hypnotize people. Okay. So then they can like give us all of their money. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That's what it feels like at the dentist.
No. I'm just kidding. I knew how people think. That's why I got to say that.
That is
No,
true.
but there's a technique, right? Like I remember in the hypnosis class.
I like how you slipped that in there because oftentimes when I leave the dentist, I feel like I need to take out a small bowl. I understand.
Well,
Yeah.
I know people think like that. I said, are you gonna buy another house? I said, no. Only if you don't brush and floss and come here every week for me to work on your teeth and do a cleaning. And the cleaning have to be $5,000 every time. Then I can buy another house.
Yeah.
So my patient's like, hell no. I stick with my regular schedule. I said, there you go. So I can't buy the house. But
so what is the most important piece of advice you'd give people to avoid having pain at the dentist's office as far as daily practice? Should they obviously brush and floss every day? Is that
Yes, not only every day, but the flossing is what deterring people, right? But here's the thing: when you brush your teeth, everything sits by the gum line. Okay, so you got to also brush your gum, and everything that matters in terms of gum disease and cavities sitting in between your teeth. And so flossing is brushing between your teeth. But if you brush the outside, the back, and the top, right? The
right?
fine surface.
Yeah.
You don't brush the in between,
Right.
right?
Right.
And you only do it. People say, I do it twice a week, or I don't do it, or I do it like
When I think of
once.
it,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. But
When
I
I
said,
remember.
so that means that you never brush in between your teeth. And that is where gum disease happens. And that's where cavities happen.
Right, because that's where the food settles,
Yes,
really.
so that when you're
Right.
eating, that's where it's stuck, right?
Right.
So I said, in dentistry, we have a phrase: floss the one tooth that you want to keep. Pick a tooth and just want to keep whatever, maybe the two front one,
Yeah.
and then floss that. But we're having that saying. So
Interesting.
talking about my friend Rob, right? He hasn't had time to take care of himself, got the family or whatever. And he's gonna kill me if he listens to this. So he sent me a picture of his tooth, right? And I saw two cavity. I said, dude, you didn't floss. He freaked out, calling me name and piss because we're really good friends. So
Yeah.
we like can curse at each other.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm seeing cavity interproximally on the distal and mesial, I mean, in between the teeth. He said, it's been there for 40 years. I said, for 40 years and it didn't grow. Like, in what planet of dentistry that a cavity there's a hole and it doesn't grow? It's like, who are you talking to? Like,
Right.
he treats children, right? So
Yeah.
he can say that to children. I said, man, it doesn't make sense. So last night I had a talk with him, right? And because I'm now his dentist when he flies over, because he gets some issues, some gum stuff that I'm taking care of, and I also do gum surgery by the laser and stuff. So I said, you need that because you haven't been flossing. He said, listen here, you. I do floss. And I said, when, Robert? At night. I said, one time at night? How many times do you eat in a day? Right?
Yeah.
It's like you not making sense. So the bacteria have time all the way into at night and then you floss. So that there's damage right there.
Yeah. I
So,
just learned something because I only floss at night.
okay. So
So
like Robert?
I'll be coming into your office before you know it. I'll be like, oh, Nini, help.
So you got to floss after every time you
Every
eat.
time you
Because
eat.
if you
Right.
don't, that means you didn't clean it between your
Girl,
teeth.
I hate flossing.
One day I'm going to have to come up with the way to clean people's teeth in between. But I don't know.
Does
Like,
a water pick help? Having a water pick?
okay, so the contact area is like this, right? So when you water pick, you go below, above. But the contact with the teeth are touching, there's nothing can go through that
Okay.
unless there's a
Unless
floss.
it's floss.
So with the floss will bring it down, and then you can use the go between to clean it.
Okay.
Okay, but there's no way around it, really, unless I have to invent something. So
All right, listeners, I'm sorry, but we have to floss after we eat, not 3 times a day, not
after
once
you
a
eat,
day.
yeah,
After we eat.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh. Hate to leave y'all with that bad news. I wonder how
I'm
many
sorry.
how many times a day the average person flosses.
Well, prior to becoming a dentist, I didn't do it.
Didn't do
So
it
I
at
had
all.
problem.
Yeah.
I had like gum issue and stuff, but now I do it.
Should we brush
I-
after every meal too?
It's recommended. Brush and floss.
So I brush in the morning and at night normally, but lunch I have to start.
After lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, because that long span, food gets stuck in there and the bacteria breaks it down into glucose and the sugar causing their byproducts actually as they eating their byproducts, their waste our body will respond to that. And our body respond to their waste or their byproducts by destroying our own cells, our ligaments, our bone, all of that.
Oh my gosh. Right? Dental health is so important. I'm always telling my kids, I have a 24-year-old and a 28-year-old, and I'm always telling them to take care of their dental health.
Because it's linked to heart disease.
Is
Gum
it really?
disease directly linked to heart disease.
Wow.
That is base evidence. That's proven.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Take care of your teeth. Are you accepting new patients?
Always.
Always?
Yeah.
Okay. So if people are local, live in the Sarasota Siesta Key area, how will they find you?
The name of the office is Siesta Village Dentistry, and we have a website. We also have Instagram and Facebook, and our phone number, is on there. If I say it now, you might not remember, but Siesta Village Dentistry.
And we'll put that on the show notes too when we post the episode. And so can they call you and have an initial consultation
Yes,
and all that?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Good. And you do everything? Do
We do everything.
carry
I take care of gum disease. I do gum surgery by the perilous. So there's no cutting with the scalpel or suturing. It's all by the laser. So the post-op recovery is much better, and you don't get recession like if you were to get the regular gum surgery, which is called osseous surgery, but it's just done by laser. So the recovery is much better. The way the gum looks afterward is also better. Over like a period of at least 5 years or more, you're starting to get new attachment of the gum and
Yeah.
bone growth.
Well, you'll appreciate
Yeah.
this. I just had gum grafting surgery,
Oh,
and I
yeah?
had to have it in 4 different
Oh,
areas,
wow.
and they harvested from the top of my mouth.
Mhm.
It was the worst thing I've ever gone
Yeah,
through.
it's
It
uncomfortable.
was so uncomfortable, and I said, had I known how much pain it was gonna be, because it was on both sides of my mouth and I had them do it all at the same time. I said, "If I had known how much pain it was gonna be, I probably wouldn't have had it done." That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's bad. It's
It was
not a
not
comfortable.
was not fun, but necessary. I'm
Yeah.
glad it's over. I'm glad it's
But you're
over.
very brave, and I'm sure you get a lot of benefits from that. So then you keep your teeth.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if you don't get enough
exactly.
gum, you can get infection. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, we're going to start with our speed round and wrap this up. So, what's your go-to comfort food that instantly takes you back to childhood?
It would be pho.
Pho?
Yeah, pho is a beef noodle soup, but they can also make it with chicken. So it's PHO. There's restaurant all over town and all over the
I'm glad
country.
you pronounced that because I pronounce it pho,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
pho.
It's pho. Yeah,
Pho.
PHO
Yeah,
with a little question mark.
it's
Question
pho.
mark. Pho.
Okay, I've been
Yeah.
saying it wrong. Okay. Favorite part of living and working in Siesta Key?
The beach is right there, so, and also it's the island feel. Everybody's very relaxed.
Yeah,
The atmosphere that we create is very relaxed and calming, and that's how I like to practice dentistry.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and it's a
awesome.
family feel. You come in, you can talk to us anytime, even before, during, or after the service.
Yeah.
There's no rush there.
What's a dental myth you wish you would disappear forever?
A dental myth
Myth, something a false.
that the dentist is scary.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. What brings you joy outside of the office?
I love the water, so I go swimming a lot, and I like to make friends with the people in Sarasota. You, for instance, that came into my life, and the people here are just very friendly and relaxing. Because people, when they hear people, if you in the beach town, you gotta like this kind of environment,
Right, we're
chilled
all
out.
very
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good lifestyle. What's the last thing that made you laugh besides this interview?
The last thing that made me laugh, it would be my conversation with my friend Robert about him not flossing or flossing, and he's calling me name for saying that he doesn't floss.
Yeah,
He
that's
gets
funny.
very, very, whatchamacallit, mm, personal about it because he's a dentist. I do floss.
Yeah.
Like, not enough.
Not enough.
So he made me laugh. I
That
laugh a
is
lot.
I love that. What an inspiring conversation, Dr. Nina Ta's journey reminds us that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and lived out over decades through hard work, compassion, and a commitment to caring for others. From a young girl arriving in a new country to a respected dentist, transforming smiles and lives are stories. If you enjoyed today's episode, our joyful act is simple today. Share this episode with someone who could use a reminder of what's possible when you don't give up. And of course, follow Joy of the Hang on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thank you, Nini, for being with us today. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so
Aw,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
I love a hug at the end of an interview.
Thank you
Take
for
care.
listening.
Bye.